As noted previously, the success of this project is dependent on people like you, making you and all the people working on or around our project the team's most important asset. As with any positive culture, we look to protect our assets. As such, we ask you to take personal responsibility for your safety and the safety of those around you. Therefore, safety on the SWLRT is not just a priority, it is the precondition to perform work. It is the priority. Today we will be explaining to you a handful of safety requirements for the project with the hope that you take these requirements as law and not suggestions. We want to help you identify unsafe conditions and then empower you to speak up when the opportunity presents itself. Today we will be discussing the project prerequisites, the Braun Site Specific Health and Safety Plan, personal protective equipment, and emergency response procedures. Prior to joining our team on the Southwest Light Rail project, we have asked that you meet some safety training prerequisites. As the job site shares the right-of-way with BNSF and Canadian Pacific, the railways have asked that all who work near their right-of-way have the following training: the Federal Railroad Authority CFR 214, roadway worker protection. This helps prevent injury to roadway workers and prevent damage to railroad equipment and property caused by on-track and off-track railroad equipment. Part 214 describes the minimum safety requirements for roadway workers and roadway maintenance machines. The eRailSafe Safety and Security Background Check improves security of railroad Class 1, short line, and contractor employees by providing background checks and security screenings. The BNSF Contractor Orientation helps employees understand their roles and responsibilities, which results in fewer and less severe employee injuries and less equipment damage. In addition to BNSF and Canadian Pacific involvement, the contract requires other minimum training requirements as well. The contract requires OSHA 10, which teaches recognition, avoidance, abatement, and prevention of safety and health hazards in workplaces. It requires fall protection training, where we learn how to identify fall hazards and decide how to best protect our workers in reducing or eliminating fall hazards. It requires confined space training, where we learn how to identify confined spaces and show you how to work in a confined space environment to maximize safety for you and those around you. And due to some isolated areas of contamination, a current OSHA HAZWOPER 24 or 40-hour training will be required for individuals who have some level of exposure. A project-specific health and safety plan was developed by Braun to provide site-specific safety and health information and provide conformance with project-required health and safety policies. This health and safety plan, or HASP, is to be used in conjunction with the Braun Intertech Corporate Health and Safety Manual and is maintained on site. Much of what you learned today will help you understand the commitments made within this health and safety plan, and thus help us continue to meet the contract obligations and be a safer employee. These documents, both the corporate safety plan and the site safety plan, are available to site workers for the duration of the project activities. Let's set the stage for safety. Like any good process, we need to have a footing to stand on, an effective policy to follow. Braun's corporate policy states, the policy of Braun Intertech to provide a safe and healthy workplace for all its employees. Injury and illness losses from incidents are costly and preventable. Braun Intertech utilizes an effective accident and illness prevention program that involves its employees in the effort to eliminate workplace hazards. And the project policy states that employees are our most valuable asset. Safety is an important consideration for the operation and the operation of our business. Safe practices on part of each employee must be part of each operation. Therefore, both policies engage in the concept that work-related injuries and illnesses are preventable and are within the control of our most valuable asset, you. We follow this concept with empowering you, the employee, to engage in safe practices within every operation where you participate. Further, as an employee, it is your obligation to own safety by identifying and correcting safety issues as they become apparent. In addition to your responsibility, it is the responsibility of our project manager and site safety representative to educate you on the site-specific safety hazards prior to starting work activities, which is why we're here today. More of this will be discussed as we move forward. Ultimately, we look to you to develop our culture of safety first. In practice, accident prevention and productivity go hand in hand. All personnel have the primary responsibility for the safety and well-being of our employees. This responsibility can only be met by working continuously to promote safe work practices among our team while maintaining property and equipment in safe operating conditions. Much of this requires preparation. Prior to beginning any task, it is imperative that all site personnel understand the hazards associated with the work that they are exposed. That understanding can come in a variety of ways. We hope we leverage our experience and training, but all employees must maintain a unique understanding of every situation's potential exposures. As such, when arriving on site, we ask that all employees check in with the area's contractor, site leadership, to participate in their daily hazard assessment and toolbox talk. But safety doesn't stop at the toolbox talk. We ask that as conditions change throughout the day, you reassess the site conditions and adjust our work approach. As you learned in OSHA 10 and likely other trainings, a competent person is able to recognize hazards associated with a particular task and has the ability to mitigate those hazards. In many situations on this job, you may be qualified to identify the hazards, but because we are not the contractor, we are not able to direct work in order to rectify the situation. We do ask that you take personal ownership for project safety and utilize the requisite training to help you identify hazards both in our own work area and the work around us as they surface. Upon identifying a hazard, we ask that these be brought to the attention of the contractor's competent person associated with the work for remediation. With respect to your own work and work area, you are the competent person. You are responsible to keep yourself and those around you out of the line of fire. Nobody expects you to be perfect, but we expect all those within our team to practice stewardship and leadership with respect to safety. Now, nobody knows everything, so if you have a situation that is questionable, if you have a doubt, it is better to err on the side of caution and request a second opinion when needed. You can contact your direct manager, Matt Sumrad, the safety officer, or John Trevelyan, the council safety manager. Their numbers will be available for you at the end of this presentation. PPE, which you have learned, are any devices or appliances designed to be worn or held by an individual for protection against one or more health and safety hazards. On this project, there are minimum contract requirements for PPE at all times. The required PPE on site is as follows: hard hat, safety glasses, steel toe/shank safety boots, long pants, and a sleeve shirt, reflective vests, and proper gloves based on the work activities. Personnel will also incorporate the use of hearing protection when working near equipment with the potential for noise levels above 85 decibels. Night work will require high visibility orange and neon yellow reflective night suits for all employees. And respirators may be required for the project depending on the work area and or the job task. Should respirators be required for the work, respirator protection will be available and implemented. See your parent company leadership to obtain safety equipment as required. First off, I want to talk about head protection. OSHA has two standards that govern hard hat requirements. The 29 CFR 1910.135 governs hard hat requirements for general industry workers, whereas the 29 CFR 1926.100 refers to head protection requirements for construction, demolition, and renovation workers. We will be operating under the 29 CFR 1926.100 head protection requirements for construction. According to OSHA, a hard hat must be worn when working in areas where there is a potential for injury to the head from falling objects. Falling debris or projectile debris is viable at any time on this project, so a Type 1 hard hat shall be utilized at all times. It is important to inspect your hard hat on a regular basis to ensure it will properly function when needed. Hard hats will need to be put out of service and replaced if there is visible perforation, cracking, deformities, or substantial loss of gloss from heat, UV light, or radiation. In addition to hard hats, eye protection is mandatory at all time on the project. The OSHA 29 CFR 1926 Subpart E states that the employer shall ensure that each affected employee uses appropriate eye or face protection when exposed to eye or face hazards from flying particles, molten metal, liquid chemicals, acid or caustic liquids, chemical gases or vapors, or potentially injurious light radiation. Now, the American National Standards Institute, or ANSI, is a nonprofit organization which facilitates project standards, thereby safeguarding a product's integrity. The ANSI standard Z87.1 references personal eye and face protection devices. These standards help ensure personal eye and face protection devices provide the necessary protection from impact, non-ionizing radiation, and liquid splash exposures. For example, the ANSI Z87 requires glasses sustain a quarter-inch steel ball traveling at 150 feet per second, that's 102 miles an hour. In response to the OSHA requirement and utilizing American standards, the ANSI Z87 eyewear with side shield protection will be provided and will be the minimum requirement for eye protection at all times on this project. Additional face and eye protection will be available if conditions warrant. Personnel will incorporate the use of hearing protection when working near equipment with the potential for noise levels above 85 decibels. If you must raise your voice or shout to be understood over the background noise when standing about an arm's length away from someone, the background noise is too hazardous and ear protection must be utilized. Earplugs will be provided and are the minimum requirement in environments where 85 decibels are exceeded. When in doubt, earplugs are inexpensive and you only get one pair of eardrums. Please protect your hearing with this cheap insurance. As you learned in your BNSF roadway worker protections, being seen is very important, and our high visibility apparel carries meaning based on color and configuration. For the Southwest Light Rail, we will be providing you with an orange Class 2 X-back configuration safety vest so that we can interact with the railway who will be working in close proximity to the project. This style and configuration must be used on the project to comply with BNSF requirements. In addition, maintenance of your PPE will be critical. Do not neglect washing your vest. Dirt will diminish the intensity of the fluorescent color, and you want the color to be as visible as possible. Read the laundering instructions, and if the vest is no longer working order, please return the original to our safety department and get a new vest. 20% of disabling workplace injuries involve hands. The most common types of injuries are cuts and lacerations, burns, both thermal and chemical, fractures, electrical, nerve damage, dermatitis, amputation, and poisoning from handling chemicals. It is our job as the employer to help mitigate these types of hazards and protect you as an employee. Gloves, as such, are required at all times on the site. Chemical-resistant gloves or cut-resistant gloves will be available for your use depending on the required application. Please understand the requirements of your work, consult the JHA, and select the best gloves for the work you are performing. Foot protection protects us from dropped tools and heavy objects, injuries from spills and splashes, electric shock, extreme heat or cold, and compression injuries such as vehicles rolling over your feet. Boots can also provide additional ankle support for strenuous activities with the added traction requirements. While the OSHA 1926 requires safety toe footwear meet the requirements of the specifications in the ANSI Z41.1, the railway has dictated that we require safety-toed ASTM 2413 compliant boots, which lace up above the ankle, have a defined heel. At all times, you need to wear these when working in proximity to their property, and therefore we just have you wear these on the project. Occupational fatalities caused by falls remain a serious public health problem. falls account for 381 of 971 total deaths in construction over 2017. That's approximately 40%. And OSHA's 29 CFR 1926.501 is the most frequently cited standard by federal OSHA in 2018. As a prerequisite to joining our team, we have asked that you obtain fall protection training because it is an important part of a worker's overall safety training. Identifying fall hazards and deciding how to best protect ourselves and others is the first step in reducing or eliminating fall hazards. Fall protection harnesses and hardware will be made available as needed throughout the project. Be sure to look ahead and give ample warning to your supervisor so that we can have adequate time to get you the equipment you need. Anyone over 6 feet without fall protection who chooses to be unprotected at elevation is subject to disciplinary action and up to and including removal from the project and termination of an employment with Braun Intertech. Again, PPE, despite being critically important to your safety and the safety of those around you, is the last line of defense with respect to hazard mitigation. As PPE serves as the only last line of defense, we ask that you constantly maintain focus on the area around yourself to identify opportunities to improve the safety of your environment. This is the end portion of the PPE onboarding. Questions are in the boxes below. If you are struggling to remember an answer, feel free to review portions of this video as you see fit. Once you are finished with the questions, click complete and move on to the next session, Site Safety Policies. Thank you.